So ladies and gentlemen, we move to the next most awaited session where we move to the discussion of Port City. And for that, we have our next guest speaker, the keynote speaker rather, who is the Director of Sales and Marketing of Port City with 2 decades of experience in the real estate industry and working majority of her time in multinationals. So ladies and gentlemen, joining me today is Ms. Yamuna Jayaratne. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
Right, to start off the discussion, can you just give me a background of Port City for the benefit of everyone?
Okay, so let me start with the ownership of Port City. So the investment comes from Czech Port City Colombo Private Limited, which is a fully owned subsidiary of China Harbour Engineering Corporation, owned by a Fortune 500 company, China Communications and Constructions Company, which is a Chinese state-owned company. So the entire investment envisaged is $1.4 billion US, and that includes the reclamation of 269 hectares of land, the breakwater, as well as the infrastructure required to make the land viable for construction. Having said that, in terms of the ownership of Port City, 100% of the land is owned by the government of Sri Lanka. In order to have a return on the investment that the company has made, 43% of the land has been provided to the development company, which is Czech Port City Colombo, on a 99-year lease basis to monetize. And what that essentially means is, let's say an investor comes in and wants to invest in a parcel of land, that party would enter into a fresh 99-year lease with the government of Sri Lanka, but the consideration or the value for that parcel of land or the money for that will come into the project company. Having said that, the government of Sri Lanka also has an opportunity to monetize on this, although the investment has been at zero cost to the government on the balance land. So that essentially is an overview of how the investment comes into play, and also on the ownership of Port City. So again, it's important to reiterate the fact that the entire land, 100%, is owned by the government of Sri Lanka, and the investment has come in at zero cost to the government. So it's a fantastic opportunity that we have, where we have a land with clean titles, first world infrastructure, creating a 2-kilometer coastline which is not currently available in the central business district of Sri Lanka present, in order for us to now take and develop. So that's an overall understanding of the ownership. I would be happy to give you an overall overview of the development as well.
Please do.
Yeah. So just to give you an overall overview of the development, Port City Colombo, number one, is a master planned city. What that means is, now if you take the city of Colombo, it has evolved to what it is, as with most cities in Sri Lanka. But here we have a fantastic opportunity where we have master planned the city. So we have looked at everything from airflow to visual appeal, to the integration between the different precincts that we have in this master planned city. So to very broadly talk about how the city has been planned, you find 5 distinct precincts available within the city. If I may go precinct by precinct, first we have the Marina Precinct, where we have the largest luxury leisure marina, right? This is essential, and this is very important to mention, because we are actually in a maritime superhighway, but this is a trade maritime route, right? But we are hitherto, although we are in terms of our location, we have hit a geographical jackpot where we are right in the middle, connecting financial giants. We are the gateway really to the 2 most largest economies in the world, China and India. right? But having said that, we haven't really capitalized on our geographical location, right? So if you take the super luxury yachting scene that is available globally, we are not connected to it, simply because we don't have the right facilities to accommodate these super yachts. It's very much a facility driven leisure activity. Right? So with Port City, we are bringing in, or we are connecting with the luxury yachting scene globally. But what does that mean to Sri Lanka? That means we will have these super luxury yacht owners coming and spending time in Sri Lanka, and that will translate them into understanding what Sri Lanka is about, and eventually falling in love with Sri Lanka, and that is going to translate them into looking at investing in Sri Lanka. So this is very important that we have this. So we've got the luxury marina in the Marina Precinct, as well as some residential property. Then moving on, we have the financial city, or the financial precinct. This is where we envisage most of the headquarter operations, regional operations, having basing their officers within Port City. So this would be a fairly dense precinct. You will have the main retail components available in this precinct as well, and you'll find the tallest structures within Port City, spanning up to maybe 100 floors, 80 floors, in the financial district. Then adjacent to that, you find the Central Park district. This is where we have the green lung of Port City. So in terms of, so we'll have a main Central Park located right in the heart of Port City. This would be twice the size of Golfes Green, to offer you a comparison, right? This will be a lush green park. We've already planted about 800 odd trees visible from the site as it is. So 5 years down the line, we envisage this to be a very lush green park. And right through the Central Park, we have an inland salt water channel that runs right across Port City through the Central Park district. The Central Park district would be a more medium dense in terms of human density, in terms of population density, and would essentially have residential as well as commercial properties. Then we have the International Island. The International Island would house all the critical, strategically important social infrastructure developments that will be available within Port City. This will include a convention center with the capacity to house approximately 3,000 delegates. So it will have an auditorium, multiple meeting rooms, exhibition space. So it will be a multi-purpose convention center, critical for Sri Lanka, because right now we don't attract a majority of conventions simply because we lack the required infrastructure and the facilities. And the MICE sector is a huge contributor to the revenues we generate from tourism. MICE tourism is huge. Just to offer you a comparison, Singapore, which has a population of 6 million, has 20 times more MICE facilities than Sri Lanka, which has a population of 21 million. So it's just an example of opportunity lost because of lack of infrastructure. And so these are the elements that we are bringing to the table through Port City. So we will have a fantastic MICE facility available. We will have an international hospital. And when I say international hospital, international branded hospital. We are losing millions of dollars every year from Sri Lankans who are spending in overseas hospital for their medical expenditure. Right? We are drawing a certain amount of medical tourism, but what we hope is through certain specializations that are not available in the region, and by creating a very conducive policy environment within Port City to attract, to create the right environment for international doctors to come and work, for international operators to come and work, we can attract very prominent brand names that anyway attract medical tourism from all over the globe. So discussions are already underway, and there's a lot of interest from well-reputed brands that have expressed interest in coming in. So we will have an international hospital. We will also have an international school, and I want to emphasize on the fact that this will be a school and not a university, for the fact that Port City is a long-term plan, and and the vision is to build an international city. You cannot have an international city without international people. We want, so the success of the financial center or the financial component of Port City would mean that we would have expatriate families or international families coming and living in Port City. So the children of these expatriate families will go to school in this international school. It has to be an international brand name. And eventually they would call Sri Lanka home. So what we are essentially trying to create is an international city, a future where we will have an international community living and thriving here. I mean, if you take Singapore, 40% of their population is expat community, and that had led to the so not only do they retain their best talent, they are attracting the best talent into the country, and it is the people of the country that can change the future of the country, essentially. And that is what we hope we could eventually create through the success of Port City. So it's not a short-term plan. You've got to have strong will to see this vision through long-term. And by long-term, we mean is the youth of the country must believe in this vision, align with this vision, and be the driving force that will take this forward. So the components of the international island will go a long way in realizing this long-term vision that we have for Port City. And in addition to that, in the international island, we will also have an entertainment and theme resort. Essential that we have that in Sri Lanka, because we must give multiple reasons for people to come to Sri Lanka. While we have addressed certain areas and tourism, we've got a unique flavor that we bring to the table, but we need to provide more reasons to attract people to Sri Lanka and attract people to Colombo. And right now tourists don't even stop over in Colombo. They go straight to down south, or get on their travel itinerary without spending much time in Colombo, whereas in other countries city tourism is a huge area, and I think Port City will increase the reasons and provide reasons for people or the expatriates or tourists to come and stay and spend time in Colombo. Right? So that's the international island, and then we come into island living, which is quintessentially reflective of what island living means. So it will comprise of mainly low-rise residential properties, villas, and it will really bring the flavor of it has a 2-kilometer uninterrupted beach. So we've created a coastline for the central business district of Colombo, as well as certain hospitality parcels as well. So I think it will bring in the flavor of what it means to live in Sri Lanka. And the beauty of Sri Lanka will be augmented through what we are hoping to create in island living. So that's at a high level a description of what Port City is. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it did. I think it was a good eye-opener for most of us who had the question of the ownership in the first place.
Yeah.
So reiterating the fact that it's 100% owned by the Sri Lankan government.
100% owned by the government of Sri Lanka.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And then we looked at the other aspects which have different avenues of income in terms of social life, leisure, but not only economical development, but also at that sustainable focusing on the sustainability as well, with the green parts coming in, and how beautiful that has been structured.
And adding to what you're saying, Kavishka, Port City is your future city. And when you compare with other regional hubs. I think Port City, and especially in a post-COVID world, we have all the elements required for what a future city is, because potential of what it has to be. I mean, some of the things that we don't realize is we have already achieved things that are tremendously difficult to achieve. Mercer's has ranked Sri Lanka as having the best quality of life or Colombo as having the best quality of life in the whole of the South Asian region. Right? It's something we don't appreciate. Our environmental pollution index, we rank much higher than our regional peers. In terms of medical care, we rank as one of the highest, as having some of the best medical care facilities. Lonely Planet has ranked us as #1 island to visit in the world. Right? So natural beauty, and when you take the quality of life index, they actually take a look at 8 verticals, including kindness, tolerance to different cultures, safety. Right? For a country that had a civil war for 25 years, we rank very high on safety, personal safety. So there are things that we can be tremendously proud of. But what are we doing with all these very difficult to achieve factors that we have achieved?
Great. So it's a whole turn for the country itself.
Yeah.
And now we've spoken of the tourists coming in,
Yeah.
we have different nations coming in,
Yeah.
and how we are ready to attract the outside world to Sri Lanka.
Absolutely.
A question on the inside, most of us do have this question: how accessible is it for the locals? Do
Good
explain
question.
that.
It's a part of the Sri Lankan map. Right now it's a construction site. So for obvious safety reasons, right now it's not accessible to the public. But Port City Colombo is a part of the Sri Lankan map. Right? So it is accessible to the public. Not right now, simply due to the fact that it is a construction site.
Okay.
So it's understood that there are hazards right now, but we hope to, towards the end of the year, to basically open certain elements of Port City to the public. This includes the beach, as well as certain temporary developments that we will do to make it interesting for the public. So we are waiting to open those elements and those areas to the public and welcoming the citizens of Sri Lanka to come and experience what Port City has to offer. But bit by bit, as investments come in, so clearly we're not going to release all the land parcels for investors immediately, because that's going to create a situation of oversupply. But we will be releasing parcels of land stage by stage, and we would be calling for investors or promoting those for investors to come and develop the vertical structures that are envisioned to be developed there. So as and when those open, I think those will also open to the public. I mean, just to give you a high-level overview, as you know, it was on the news recently as well. Brown's Investments has partnered with us, in fact, for the first vertical development, which will be branded as the International Financial Center. So Brown's Investments has partnered with us for phase 1 of this development. So we hope groundbreaking will take place this year, and by 2024-25 we hope that this would open. So then that would be open to the public.
So I think that sums up the discussion as well, and giving us a lot of insight of how Port City is operating currently and what we have in store for us to expect in the future, and what the success of Port City would mean to Sri Lanka in the years to come, and how the youth of Sri Lanka needs to accept this and experience it and take it forward with sustainability to see a better Sri Lanka in the years to come.
Kavishka, may I add, you said what it means to Sri Lanka, so I would like to add a bit more to that. The success of Port City, see, in order to make Port City successful, see, what we are essentially, bottom line, planning to attract is foreign direct investments into real estate. That is stage one. But in order for for primary investors who will invest in the real estate, imagine you're investing in a commercial building. The investor must be confident that they can lease out or sell the property that they're developing. So in order to create that demand, we need to, predominantly commercial, we need to create that secondary demand. There has to be enough regional offices or international offices that are willing to come in and lease the space in a building that comes up. So the only way we can do that is to create a special economic zone within Port City, bring in the right investment friendly environment, business friendly environment within Port City, and then position Sri Lanka as a services hub. So plans to do that is already underway, and what that would essentially mean to the future of the youth in Sri Lanka is that you would have the opportunity to hopefully work in multinational, international organizations that are in the services sector. So that could mean IT, financial services, insurance, all these areas. I'm talking about international reputed Fortune 500 companies having their regional headquarters. So imagine the exposure that our youth would have. Right now you see a lot of youth leaving the country in search of this exposure, in search of a better lifestyle. You don't need 10 years, 20 years down the line. What we hope would take place is that brain drain would not happen. And the youth of Sri Lanka will find these opportunities right here on the shores of Colombo itself, within Port City. Yeah.
So I think that's a lot of hope for Sri Lanka and the youth itself. And summing up that is hope for Sri Lanka, the youth, and a whole of another step, a revolutionary step of development for the country coming in. So thank you, Yamuna, for coming in and sharing those insights.
It's up to the youth of the country to get behind this and drive it forward.
Agreed.
You are the future of the country.
There she says. So thank you for joining with us today.
Thank you so much.
See you again.
Thank you for having me.